I stood there in my custom Valentino gown, diamonds glittering at my ears, as Victoria Montgomery thrust her half-eaten plate of hors d'oeuvres toward me, not even bothering to look me in the eyes. Her platinum blonde hair was swept into an immaculate updo, her white skin flushed from too many glasses of champagne. "I'm sorry?" I asked, my voice steady, despite the heat rising to my cheeks. "The plate?" she repeated, wiggling it impatiently in my direction. "Take it. There's a good girl." All around us, Hartwell Industries' annual holiday gala continued in full swing. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead in the ballroom of Boston's most exclusive hotel. Executives in tailored suits mingled with their perfectly polished wives. Waitstaff, the actual waitstaff, moved efficiently through the crowd with silver trays. But apparently to Victoria Montgomery, my black skin and presence at this party could only mean one thing. I smiled, not the tight, professional smile I'd practiced for business meetings. This was something else, something sharp and dangerous that I normally kept hidden. "Of course," I said, reaching for the plate. "But first, I need your husband to cancel the multi-million-dollar contract my company has with his." Her smile vanished. "Excuse me?" Victoria's perfectly made-up face froze in confusion. "Who are you?" Before I could answer, a man's voice cut through our exchange. "Victoria, darling, there you are." Richard Montgomery, CEO of Hartwell Industries, and Victoria's husband of 15 years, appeared at her side. His silver-gray hair and tailored tuxedo projected exactly the image he cultivated. Distinguished, powerful, untouchable. His smile faltered slightly when he saw me. "Miss Williams, I didn't realize you two had met." "We haven't," I said, keeping my voice light. "Not properly, anyway." Victoria's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "You're Maya Williams, CEO of Eclipse Tech Solutions," I finished for her. "Yes." The color drained from Victoria's face as she realized her mistake. I could almost see the gears turning in her head as she tried to reconcile the woman she'd mistaken for waitstaff with the executive her husband was courting for a $70 million cybersecurity contract. "I'm so embarrassed," she stammered, trying to recover. "I thought you were a server," I supplied helpfully. Richard's jaw tightened. "Victoria, perhaps you should check on our table arrangements." It wasn't a suggestion. As Victoria hurried away, Richard turned to me. "Miss Williams, I apologize profusely for my wife's behavior. She's had too much champagne and—" I cut him off with a raised hand. "No need to explain, Richard. We both know exactly what happened here." I handed him my untouched glass of champagne. "If you'll excuse me, I think I need some fresh air." As I walked away, I felt Richard's eyes on my back. I knew what he was thinking. $70 million potentially walking out the door because his wife couldn't conceive that a black woman in formal attire might actually be someone important. The balcony was mercifully empty. The December air bit at my bare shoulders, but I welcomed the cold. It helped clear my head. Boston's skyline glittered before me, a tapestry of lights against the night sky. Somewhere in that constellation of buildings was my office, the headquarters of the company I'd built from nothing. I pulled my phone from my clutch and texted my executive assistant, "Send me everything we have on Richard Montgomery, personal and professional, tonight." The response came immediately. "Everything? Even the unofficial file?" I hesitated only for a moment. "Everything." I'd spent 10 years building Eclipse Tech from a startup in my garage to one of the most respected cybersecurity firms in the country. We'd earned that Hartwell contract through superior technology and countless hours of work, and in one thoughtless moment, Victoria Montgomery had made it crystal clear what she, and likely her husband, really thought of me. The balcony door opened behind me. I didn't need to turn to know who it was. "Maya." Marcus Chen, my chief technology officer and oldest friend, stepped beside me at the railing. At 6'2" with sharp features and perpetually messy black hair, Marcus stood out in any crowd. Tonight his tuxedo made him look like he belonged on a movie poster. "You okay?" I saw what happened. "I'm fine," I said automatically. Marcus raised an eyebrow. 20 years of friendship says otherwise. I sighed. "She thought I was a server, Marcus." "I know." "No, you don't." I turned to face him fully. "You don't know what it's like to have people look at you and immediately decide what you're worth based on your appearance. To walk into rooms where you've been invited and still have people ask if you're lost. To build something extraordinary and still be treated like you're nothing." Marcus was quiet for a moment. You're right, I don't know. But I do know you, Maya, and I know that look in your eyes. What look? The same one you had when Peterson Financial tried to steal our encryption algorithm. The one that says someone's about to learn a very expensive lesson. I couldn't help but smile. Marcus knew me too well. The Hartwell contract is important, he continued cautiously. We've already started preliminary work. The team has put in hundreds of hours. I know. I turned back to the city lights. But some things matter more than money. Like what? Respect. My phone vibrated. The files on Richard Montgomery had arrived. I glanced at the first document, a detailed background report, and what I saw made me freeze. Maya? Marcus asked, noticing my expression. What is it? I turned the phone so he could see. There, in black and white, was evidence that Richard Montgomery hadn't always been Richard Montgomery. Before he was 30, he'd been Richard Moretti, son of Vincent Moretti, one of Boston's most notorious mob figures from the 80s. Richard had legally changed his name after his father's conviction, buried his past, and reinvented himself as the pinnacle of Boston high society. Holy shit, Marcus whispered. This is just the beginning, I said, scrolling through more documents. Look at this. 3 years ago, Hartwell Industries almost went bankrupt after a failed expansion. They were saved by a last-minute investor, Westfield Partners. Never heard of them. That's because they don't exist. It's a shell company. I showed him another document, and guess who's behind it? Vincent Moretti's old associates. Hartwell is being used to launder money. Marcus's eyes widened. Maya, this is dangerous information. It's also our advantage, I said, my mind already racing ahead. Richard isn't just worried about losing our contract. He's terrified of his past coming to light. What are you planning? I put my phone away and straightened my shoulders. I'm going to make sure the Montgomerys never mistake me, or anyone who looks like me, for the help again. When we returned to the party, Richard immediately broke away from his conversation to intercept us. Victoria hovered nervously nearby, her smile fixed and brittle. Maya, Richard said warmly, as if nothing had happened. I hope we can put that unfortunate misunderstanding behind us. Victoria feels terrible. I gave him my most professional smile. Of course, Richard. These things happen. The relief on his face was palpable. Wonderful. Now I was hoping we could discuss finalizing the contract details next week. My legal team has a few minor concerns about the implementation timeline. Actually, I interrupted smoothly, I think we should discuss the contract now, privately. Richard's smile faltered. Now. But this is hardly the place. I insist. I glanced meaningfully at Victoria, who was watching us anxiously. Unless you'd prefer a more public conversation. Richard's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Of course, my private office is just down the hall. As we walked away, I caught Marcus's eye. He gave me a subtle nod. Phase 1 was underway. Richard's office at the hotel was exactly what you'd expect. Rich mahogany, leather chairs, and a view that showcased his importance. He closed the door behind us and gestured for me to sit. Maya, I want to apologize again for Victoria's behavior. She's not usually so thoughtless, isn't she? I took a seat, crossing my legs carefully. In my experience, Richard, people reveal their true selves in unguarded moments. He frowned, moving behind his desk. What exactly are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm stating a fact. Your wife saw me, a black woman in formal attire at your company party, and immediately assumed I was serving staff. That tells me everything I need to know about the Montgomery household values. Richard's face hardened. I think you're overreacting. It was an honest mistake. Was it? I interrupted. Would she have made the same mistake if I were white? His silence was answer enough. Here's what's going to happen, I continued calmly. Eclipse Tech will still provide cybersecurity services to Hartwell Industries, but the terms are changing. The terms have already been negotiated. The terms are changing, I repeated firmly. You will increase our compensation by 20%. You will implement a comprehensive diversity and inclusion program at Hartwell with measurable goals and public accountability. And you and Victoria will make a $3 million donation to the National Foundation for Black Technical Excellence. Richard stared at me incredulous. That's extortion. No, Richard. That's the cost of respect. I leaned forward. And before you decide to tell me to go to hell, you should know that I'm aware of who you really are, Mr. Moretti. The color drained from his face. How did you... I'm in the information security business, Richard. Finding information is what I do, I smiled. And I've found quite a lot about you. He recovered quickly, his shock turning to anger. So this is blackmail. You're threatening to expose my past if I don't meet your demands. I'm offering you an opportunity to do the right thing for the right reasons, I corrected him. But yes, if you refuse, I will walk away from this contract and take my knowledge of your past and your present arrangements with Westfield Partners with me. Richard went very still. What do you know about Westfield? Enough. I stood up. You have until Monday to decide. 9 a.m. my office. Bring Victoria. As I turned to leave, Richard called after me, his voice hard. You're making a dangerous enemy, Maya. I paused at the door. No, Richard. I'm making an opportunity for redemption. It's up to you whether you take it. Back at the party, Marcus was waiting anxiously. How did it go? Phase 1 complete, I said quietly. He's rattled and dangerous, Marcus warned. If what we found is true, he has connections to people who don't play by the rules. I'm counting on it, I replied. That's why we need to move quickly. Is everything set with Jennifer? Jennifer Ross was our chief financial officer, brilliant with numbers, and more importantly for my plans, a former federal prosecutor specializing in financial crimes. Marcus nodded. She'll be ready for Monday's meeting. Good. Now, I said, adjusting my diamond earrings, let's enjoy the rest of this lovely party. I think I'll have another glass of champagne. The next morning, I was in my office by 7, preparing for what would undoubtedly be an eventful few days. My corner office at Eclipse Tech headquarters offered panoramic views of Boston Harbor, a daily reminder of how far I'd come. I'd grown up in Roxbury with a single mother who worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. While other kids had summer camps and vacations, I had the public library and second-hand computers I taught myself to repair and program. By 16, I was writing security software. By 22, I had my first patent. At 30, I founded Eclipse Tech with a small business loan and an idea that cybersecurity could be both more effective and more intuitive. Now, at 38, I ran a company valued at over $500 million. I'd earned my place at tables like the Hartwell Gala, and I was tired of people like the Montgomerys refusing to see it. A knock at my door pulled me from my thoughts. It was Zoe Parker, my executive assistant, young, efficient, and fiercely loyal. Your 8 o'clock is here, she announced, and you've got a call from Richard Montgomery on line 1. I smiled. I'll take the call. Send in my 8 o'clock in 5 minutes. Richard didn't waste time with pleasantries. I want to meet earlier than Monday, he said, his voice tense. Today, and not at your office. That doesn't work for me, Richard. Monday 9 a.m. as agreed. You don't understand the position you're putting me in, he hissed. If certain people think I'm compromised, that sounds like a personal problem, I interrupted. Monday morning, Richard. Bring Victoria and your checkbook. I hung up before he could respond and buzzed Zoe. Send him in. Detective James Washington of the Boston Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit had been a valuable contact for years. Tall and distinguished with salt and pepper hair, he carried himself with the quiet authority of someone who'd seen it all. Maya, he greeted me with a firm handshake. Your message sounded urgent. It is. I gestured for him to sit. What do you know about Westfield Partners? Washington's expression sharpened. Where did you hear that name? In the course of my business. Am I right in thinking it's significant? He leaned forward. Westfield Partners has been on our radar for years. Shell company suspected of laundering money for what's left of the old Moretti crime family. We've never been able to prove who's actually behind it. I slid a folder across my desk. Maybe this will help. As Washington reviewed the documents, his eyebrows rose higher and higher. Where did you get this information? Let's just say it fell into my lap during some due diligence research. This connects Westfield directly to Richard Montgomery, or should I say Moretti? Washington looked up at me. This is enough for a warrant. Maybe more. I thought it might be, I said. But I need a favor. I need you to wait until Tuesday to move on this. Washington's eyes narrowed. Why the delay? I have a meeting with Montgomery on Monday. A chance to right some wrongs that go beyond financial crimes. Maya, Washington said carefully, if Montgomery is connected to the Moretti family, he's dangerous. And if he suspects you know about this, I can handle Richard Montgomery, I assured him. Tuesday, James, not before. After he left, I called Marcus. It's set. Washington took the bait. You sure about this timeline? Marcus asked. Montgomery sounded desperate on the phone. That's exactly why we need to maintain pressure, I explained. When people get desperate, they make mistakes, and I'm counting on Richard making a big one. I didn't have to wait long. That afternoon, Zoe rushed into my office, her face pale. Maya, there's a problem. Someone's trying to access our servers. It's a sophisticated attack, targeting your personal files. I suppressed a smile. Alert the security team, standard protocols. Already done, but Zoe hesitated. There's something else. A man has been asking questions about you around the building. Security spotted him taking photos of your car. That I hadn't expected. Description: tall, muscular, scar on his right cheek. Security thinks he might be armed. My heart rate kicked up a notch, but I kept my expression neutral. Increase security at all entrances. And call Marcus. Tell him to implement firewall protocol. Firewall protocol was our most aggressive cybersecurity measure, designed not just to repel attacks, but to trace them back to their source and gather intelligence on the attackers. It was also technically in a legal gray area, which is why we rarely used it. But Richard had just made his first major mistake, and I intended to capitalize on it. By evening, our security team had confirmed what I already suspected. The cyber attack originated from a private server registered to Hartwell Industries. Richard had panicked, exactly as I'd predicted. He was trying to find out exactly what I knew and what evidence I had. What he didn't realize was that I'd prepared for this. The files he was trying to access were decoys, containing just enough real information to seem authentic, but missing the most damaging evidence, which was stored elsewhere. The physical surveillance was more concerning. Richard was escalating faster than I'd anticipated, moving beyond cyber intrusion to potential physical intimidation. I called Marcus from my secure line. Change of plans. We need to accelerate. Can you be ready by tomorrow instead of Monday? For phase 2? Yeah, but... Marcus paused. Maya, what's going on? Montgomery sent someone to watch me, possibly armed. Jesus Christ, I'm calling the police. No, I said firmly. Not yet. This is playing into our hands. I just need to be careful tonight. I left the office with enhanced security, taking a different route home than usual. My penthouse apartment in Back Bay had excellent security, but I still checked every room carefully when I arrived. As an extra precaution, I activated the hidden cameras I'd had installed throughout the apartment. Around midnight, my secure phone rang. It was Jennifer Ross, our CFO. Maya, you need to see this, she said without preamble. Firewall protocol captured something big. Montgomery isn't just trying to access your files. He's transferring massive amounts of money out of Hartwell's accounts. It looks like he's preparing to run. This was unexpected. How much? 42 million so far, routed through at least 6 different shell companies. Can you trace it? Already on it. But there's more. He's been making calls to a private airfield outside the city. A jet is being prepared for tomorrow night. Destination Rome. I processed this information quickly. Montgomery was more desperate than I'd realized. He wasn't just worried about what I might reveal. He was using this as an opportunity to take the money and disappear. Keep tracking the money, I instructed Jennifer, and send everything to my secure server. We're moving up the timeline. Everything happens tomorrow. The next morning, I arrived at the office before dawn. My team was already assembled in the conference room. Marcus, Jennifer, and a new addition, Laura Davis, head of our legal department. Montgomery is running scared, I told them. He's liquidating assets and preparing to flee the country. That means we have one shot at this. Are you sure you want to go through with it? Marcus asked. We could just hand everything to Washington now and let the police handle it. No, I said firmly. This isn't just about Montgomery's crimes. This is about making a statement, about ensuring that people like Victoria Montgomery think twice before making assumptions based on someone's appearance. I looked around at my team, the brilliant minds who had helped build Eclipse Tech with me. Here's the plan. By 9 a.m., everything was in place. I sent a text to Richard. Change of plans. Meeting at my office today at noon. Non-negotiable. His response was immediate. Impossible. Monday as agreed. I replied with a single attachment, a small sample of the financial data Firewall Protocol had captured, showing his frantic money transfers from the previous night. This time, his response took longer. Noon. I'll be there. At 11:30, Zoe alerted me that Richard had arrived, alone. No Victoria, I asked when he was shown into my office. Richard looked terrible. His normally immaculate appearance disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. This is between you and me, Maya. Leave my wife out of it. That's not how this works, Richard. Victoria was an integral part of why we're here today. What do you want? he demanded, dropping all pretense of civility. Money? Is that it? Name your price. I smiled. Please, have a seat. We'll discuss everything when the others arrive. Others? What others? Panic flashed across his face. Before I could answer, Zoe announced the arrival of Detective Washington. Richard shot to his feet. What is this? A setup. Please, Richard, I said calmly. Sit down. There's one more person joining us. Moments later, Victoria Montgomery was escorted in, looking confused and annoyed. Richard, what's going on? Your secretary said it was urgent. She stopped short when she saw Detective Washington. Then her eyes landed on me. Recognition dawned, followed by visible discomfort. Mrs. Montgomery, I greeted her pleasantly. Thank you for joining us. Please take a seat next to your husband. Victoria hesitated, then complied, perching nervously on the edge of a chair. I don't understand why I'm here. You're here, I explained, because actions have consequences, because the way you treated me at the gala revealed a truth about yourself that you probably prefer to keep hidden, and because your husband's response to that moment has set in motion events that cannot be undone. I turned to Richard. Would you like to explain to your wife why a detective from financial crimes is here? Or shall I? Richard's face had gone ashen. Maya, please, whatever you think you know. I know that you're planning to leave the country tonight, I interrupted. I know that you've transferred over $40 million to offshore accounts in the last 24 hours. And I know that those funds are connected to Westfield Partners, a money laundering operation for what remains of your father's criminal enterprise. Victoria stared at her husband in shock. Richard, what is she talking about? She's lying, Richard said desperately. She's trying to extort us because you mistook her for waitstaff. I opened my laptop and turned it toward them. These are the transfer records, Victoria. Your husband has been moving money all night. He has a private jet waiting to take him to Rome this evening. I paused. Notice I said him, not you. He wasn't planning to take you along. Victoria's face crumpled as the truth hit her. Richard! Richard lunged across my desk, reaching for my laptop. You bitch! You've ruined everything! Detective Washington moved quickly, restraining Richard with practiced ease. Richard Montgomery, you're under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. As Washington read Richard his rights, Victoria sat frozen in shock. When they took Richard away, she remained in her chair, staring blankly ahead. He was going to leave me, she whispered. Yes, I confirmed, but that's not the worst of it. The money he was stealing, it wasn't just his to take. It belonged to Hartwell Industries, to shareholders, to employees whose pensions are invested in the company. Victoria looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know about any of it. You have to believe me. Maybe you didn't, I acknowledged. But that doesn't excuse how you treated me, Victoria. That came from somewhere deep inside you. A place where you judge people based on how they look rather than who they are. I'm sorry, she said quietly, for what I did at the party. It was inexcusable. Yes, it was. I sat down across from her. But now you have a choice. You can be defined by that moment, or you can learn from it. What do you mean? Hartwell Industries is about to face a crisis unlike anything it's seen before. As Richard's wife and a major shareholder, you have influence. You can use it to help the company survive, and in the process, create a more inclusive culture. Victoria wiped her tears away, her expression hardening into something more resolute. What are you suggesting? A partnership. Eclipse Tech will still provide cybersecurity services to Hartwell, but with modified terms, and you will personally oversee the implementation of a comprehensive diversity and inclusion program. Why would you help us after what we did to you? Because this was never about destroying Hartwell Industries, I explained. It was about justice and change. 5,000 people work for your company. They shouldn't suffer because of Richard's crimes or your prejudices. Victoria was silent for a long moment. I'll do it, she finally said. Not just because we need your help, but because you're right. About me, about what I need to change. 6 months later, I stood at a podium in the same hotel ballroom where Victoria Montgomery had handed me her plate. But this time, I wasn't a guest. I was the keynote speaker at the launch of the Hartwell Eclipse Initiative for Diversity in Tech, a joint venture that would provide scholarships and mentoring to underprivileged students interested in technology careers. Victoria sat in the front row, applauding politely. She wasn't my friend. Some bridges can't be fully rebuilt, but she had proven herself committed to making amends. Under her interim leadership, Hartwell had weathered the storm of Richard's arrest and prosecution. The company had emerged smaller but more ethical, with a genuine commitment to change. As for Richard, he was awaiting trial, facing multiple federal charges. Most of the money had been recovered, though some remained hidden in accounts investigators were still trying to trace. After my speech, Marcus found me at the reception. "Quite a turnaround," he commented, nodding toward Victoria, who was deep in conversation with a group of young scholarship recipients. "6 months ago, she thought you were serving canapes. Now she's following your lead on corporate diversity initiatives." "People can change," I said, "when properly motivated." "Speaking of change," Marcus said, lowering his voice, "have you decided about the Westfield offer?" This was the final irony of the whole situation. In the wake of Richard's arrest, the real powers behind Westfield Partners had reached out through intermediaries. They wanted to legitimize their operations, convert their ill-gotten gains into legal investments, and they wanted me to help them do it. "I turned them down," I said. "Some opportunities aren't worth the cost." "Even when the cost is $70 million, Marcus asked, referring to the fee they'd offered. "Even then," I smiled. "Some things are more valuable than money, Marcus." "Like what?" "Respect," I said, echoing our conversation on the balcony that night, and the knowledge that when someone hands me their plate and calls me sweetie, I can hand it right back, with interest. As we moved through the reception, I caught Victoria's eye across the room. She gave me a small, acknowledging nod. Not friendship, but recognition. Recognition of who I was and what I had built. Recognition that I belonged in this room not as someone serving others, but as a force to be reckoned with. And in the end, that recognition, hard-won and unquestionable, was worth more than any contract.